All right, should be popping up in just a few seconds. How's it going, everybody? This is the Osmo.com NHL Strategy Show. We've got a pretty good slate today, 9 games, and I think a lot of options and a lot of home teams. So that's usually usually exciting to me. Well, I mean, no more home teams than normal, but a lot of home teams in good spots, I should say, and that gets me excited. We do have ownership out that actually just dropped uh, right before I got on the show. People messaging me in Slack. Uh, Good conversation going on in our premium Slack chat. If you guys are not yet members, promo code Hit the Ice or promo code NHL Strategy will get you up to, or not up to, it will get you 50% off your first month of any Osmo Plus monthly package. So make sure you're using that on a monthly package. You can't use it on the weekly. Um, or you took advantage of our Cyber Monday deal. That was about as good of a deal as we'll ever have. And so probably a lot of you guys are premium that watch this. If you got in for $1 for the week, you should still have that going on. We do have a bunch of other free stuff right now. As you see, we've got the projection up here. This is FanDuel. Let's go over to DraftKings. We usually talk more DraftKings. But here we go. Here's the link to the lineup builder if you guys want to use that today. You can export straight from here, upload it to your DK or FanDuel template. Switch between DraftKings and FanDuel. You can search your slate if you want to do the late slate. A lot of the games, almost all the games, on a 9-gamer start at 7 Eastern. So you're going to know pretty quick where you're at, which I like. We'll know if it's a close the laptop quick night or if we're going to have to stay up and watch the brutal Calgary Buffalo game, I think is what we get the slate, I guess, where we close out the slate. So we'll see. I like that it's more of a turbo, 7 out of the 9 games starting at 7 Eastern. As always, if you guys could give likes, I always forget to ask, but I remembered for the first time in forever early in the show. That does help us out. So feel free to drop us a like if you do appreciate the content. NBA ownership rankings are also free. And then we're going to have some, the amount of likes, a certain amount of likes will unlock certain NBA content. So if you guys are watching the deeper dive after this with Laffy and Adam, who always do a great job, that's where it'll start. And you're going to be able to unlock certain amounts of content with the amount of likes. I wonder if we'll ever do that for NHL shows. But obviously the viewing audience for the NBA shows is huge. And this should be. I mean, those guys do an awesome job. Showdown. Actually, are these free today? Let me check on this. I had this pulled up. Let me. I think these are free, but let me confirm before I lie to you guys. All right, here's our marketing plan for today. Gonna try to not show that on screen so you can't see everything behind the curtain. Top showdown and single game plays for DraftKings and FanDuel. So this should be made free at some point today. But here's the link anyways. If you're playing showdown today, which why wouldn't you? I mean, another chance to bank a single game slate. I'm playing showdown for sure. I've been jamming in 150 entries into this $10 lately, which is probably not smart. It's not like I play a ton every night, but I'll definitely be playing, and I like using the Showdown tool. So this is a tool I actually really believe in, and one that I use in my process for Showdown. Not that I'm a great Showdown player, but this definitely helps me improve. It helps, even if you like hand building. I think taking a quick look at this will help you get on the right track so you're not making a lineup with 1,000 dupes. We are presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, as always. They got a bigger $12 today, which I like to see. I think it filled decently early yesterday, so 285 entries today. 12.3% management fee. We could certainly deal with that for NHL. 8 max this time. Less than $100 to get in this contest and max it. And so that's probably what I'll be doing after the show is both crunching my lineups for DraftKings, and then got to get in some Yahoo action. I've had fun playing over on Yahoo. 2 goalies, you get the plus minus. So a little bit different play style. Somewhat, same general strategy, but there are a couple nuances that you guys will be able to figure out pretty quick. The Baller Tournament on Yahoo, kind of their premier NBA tournament, 12% management fee, about 3/4 of what you're going to pay in management fees compared to other sites. And then the NFL Baller, also huge. They've got Thursday through Monday contests as well for NFL. If that piques your interest, use promo code AWESEMO for up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. You guys may have noticed Nolan is not here. He is doing some real life stuff, some good stuff, and it'll just be me breaking it down. We will get through this 9-game slate, hopefully before 5 Eastern, depending on how much I ramble. If I miss any news along the way, I tried to make mental notes of everything. I should have just wrote everything down, but being a millennial, I try to just trying to take the easy way out and not write stuff down. And so I think I've got a pretty good grasp on news and all that stuff, but if you guys want to shout it out if I miss anything, feel free. Let's go over lineup study from yesterday really quick because it is a big slate we've got, and I tend to go off on some rants on these bigger slates, which I shouldn't, but Nolan and Cliffy keep me grounded. All right, so here's what we got last night. I don't know how to pronounce this person's name, but he or she was a 150 maxer. I'm not sure I recognize this user, to be honest, but Draisaitl, Kara, Gagne. I kind of was poking some fun at Kara. I don't know that I dogged him too hard yesterday, but he ended up scoring. I think I said something along the lines of he's a 3K winger. It's not his fault. He's a top 6 forward. Edmonton looked really good for the first period. Like McDavid looked unstoppable, and then they just kind of went away. So weird slate for a number of different reasons. McKinnon was in the winning lineup. The stack didn't really perform that well, but he did his usual McKinnon thing. The one-off ended up working last night. Grubauer was huge. Only gave up 1 goal. Just played. Did I say he's terrible? Yeah, I mean, he is terrible. I still think he is terrible. But terrible. I think I said something along the lines of, I'm going to have some Edmonton 2 stacks, even though he is terrible. You can play terrible players. I'm certainly not above playing terrible players, as you'll see in my top lineup. Yeah, that Devils 4 Cup, that is probably a pretty good idea. It feels like whenever I dog on these guys and take shots at them, they end up scoring goals. Patty Marleau the other night. I'm trying to think who else. Kara last night. But there's been a couple other guys where I've said this guy sucks, and then he scores a goal, or he's on the nut lineup or whatever. But congrats to this guy. Carlson-Klefbom was the pairing you needed. Both high-priced defensemen. When that happens, usually a better chance of dupes, as you'll see. And so my top lineup was duped, but by a player I really respect, so I didn't feel too bad about it. But full Edmonton 2, 2-man Pittsburgh 2, and then McKinnon 1 off with the 2 top defensemen and the best goalie. So nice job. Patty Marleau is never in play, Vought says. Maybe. Let's see how many dupes this user had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's not bad out of 150 on a 4-game slate. So, real quick, Testosterone and myself had the same lineup. To be honest, I got bailed out here. So we had this exact same lineup. Klefbom, Carlson. Testosterone likes to play the top defenseman and go really heavy on them. In fact, after we look at this, I want to see the exposures quick. Lizotte, Kempe, and Wagner with... is this right? Yeah, this is right. I was thinking Edmonton 2 was my top lineup, but it was the McKinnon line. They weren't great, but if you had a line that did okay and you could fit in Carlson and Klefbom, that was the key, right? And so these are the two guys. These are the three guys that won the lineup, and you got one goal, kind of a fluky goal from LA3. Needed another assist on that goal to maybe sneak up into first place here and tie. So this is I profited. For Aaron asking in chat. Testosterone cashed a bunch more lineups than me, but let's quick look at the exposures here and see how much Carlson and Clefbaum. Wow, 80% Clefbaum, 58% Carlson. That is pretty healthy. So when that happens and you cash over half your lineups, you're gonna be doing pretty hot when they both go for 24 and 27. I think those were maybe not my two highest owned defensemen, but definitely Clefbaum, yeah. Clefbaum, I ran a bunch of 3-2-1, so the exposures are a little bit funky here, but yeah. Like my top few forwards didn't really do much of anything. Letang was a bust. It was just basically that one lineup that got me there. So that happens sometimes. Yeah, Clefbaum, I was like, man, Clefbaum, didn't get in on the first assist. I was like, he's probably got like a couple points, and I looked and he already had 4 blocks, block shot bonus, and like 3 shots on goal at like midway through the second period. He was just a beast, and then he scored a goal. So he was nuclear last night. You needed him again. When that happens, and you don't play the top defenseman. I don't know. I saw some people complaining in Slack about Clefbaum having a big game. It's like, I thought he was, if not the best play, he was right up there from a raw point basis and a value basis. I thought he was great. So let's go on to tonight. We've got a good one. Blackhawks and Bruins, not necessarily this game, but a good slate overall. 2.5 implied total for the Hawks. 3.6 for the Bruins, Robin Lehner, and Tuukka Rask in net. Once again, this is the Osmo.com NHL lineup builder. If you guys want to try it out for free, there's your link right there. And you can check it out and build some lineups and, get some feedback as you're building them. You've got the projections right here. You've got the stack projection, just the overall projection of the line mates as well. So here's what we got. Boston, no Bergeron in this game. So we're going to get Krejci with DeBrusk and Pasternak at least to start. Coyle with Marchand and Danton Heinen. The rest of it doesn't really matter that much. What I'm looking at the most here is, so I think we have Pasternak being the highest owned guy. Let's see here. Yeah, so Pasternak, the highest owned guy in this game. That makes sense. I wonder, I can't do the math right now. We just got ownership projections right before the show, so trying to digest everything as I go. But I wonder which stack of the top 2 for Boston is actually going to be the one that's higher owned overall. Because I think it's going to be close. Like, you've got Pasternak, who everyone loves playing on the top line, and he's going to be owned in power play stacks or whatever as a one-off, all that. But then you've got full correlation on the second line on the top power play for Boston. So I think we might see higher ownership on the second line as a full stack, lower ownership on the top line. I like the top line a little bit better as a full stack. Like, they just project a little bit better. You get their top scorer. You could do something like Krejci, Pasternak, and Marchand. I mean, you could just go back to what they're running before. No problem with that. You could play one of Coyle or Heinen to get different. But yeah, the top 6 is just in a really good spot for Boston. There's a few teams like this tonight where I like 2 to 3 lines of the team. But I think I'm going to be pretty overweight on Boston 1 as a full stack. Looking at where I have Boston 2, I'm probably going to be closer to the field, maybe even a little bit underweight on Boston 2. I'm running a lot of 3-3s tonight. I've been playing around with more power play stacks, but I don't know if I'm yet comfortable with my process of like filtering out lineups with power play stacks or trying to figure out stack ownership. So I don't know if I'm going to end up running those out tonight. But it's something I'm experimenting with. I might run like 20 or 30 out of my 150 if I end up actually running power play stacks tonight. because I think there's a couple really, really nice spots, and this would be one of them. So that's why I mentioned power play stacking, even though a lot of times I'm not actually doing that, but it just depends on your play style. It depends if you want to play even strength stacks. It depends if you want to do some kind of funky 5-mans, some 5-2-1s, bringing it back to like baseball season, pretty popular stack type. But as far as the Chicago side, you got Strome back. Maybe you take a shot on the second line. Boston not as daunting defensively, with no Bergeron, and then Pastrnak and Marchand are not on the same line, so maybe a little bit of a downgrade defensively, and I guess it opens up the possibility to play some Kane and Strome and DeBrincat. It would be a full stack or really nothing. Tays, Saad, Nylander, they're cheap, I suppose, but I'd be more looking at the second line. But the problem is I don't even think you're getting that big of a discount on them. Let's see, looking at their ownership, like Patrick Kane's expected to get 6.5%. That's not the end of the world. It's just kind of whatever. If I end up with a couple Chicago 2s out of my 150, I'm not going to X them out or anything, but doubt this is more anything more than like a sprinkle of my 150. Defenseman here. Krug is kind of the guy that goes with both lines. And then you can play McAvoy for 3,900. I know McAvoy hasn't been very good, but those are the couple defensemen I'm considering, just the guys that play in the power play. I prefer McAvoy over Grzelcyk. I think McAvoy is going to skate a lot with both of the top two lines. I don't really know how matchups are going to go here either. Tough to tell with Marchand and Pastrnak and Krejci split up here. So I'm not sure it really matters from Boston's standpoint, just because I think Chicago's so bad defensively. Like, their road numbers are so bad. So they'll probably just get waxed at 5-on-5. And that being the case, that's why I think I'm going to be heavier on Boston 1. But, I mean, no shortage of ways to get weird with your Boston stacks. You can go Coyle with Marchand and Pastrnak. Just make sure you're getting some exposure to this top 6 in some form or fashion. I'm not really dipping down to the third and fourth lines or anything. Colorado, Montreal, 3.1 implied total for the Avs, 3.4 for Montreal. Pavel Francouz against Caden Primo. We're going to go with that. I'm assuming it's some sort of French pronunciation. Nolan's not here to correct me. But this was going to be a pretty fun one here. I don't know that we have confirmation on... Well, okay. Looks like Landeskog's back. How often is Krug on the ice with the first line compared to other lines excluding power play? Primo? Okay. So I was close enough. Primo looks like a baby. Yeah, some of these guys, it's like... You're like, how is this guy in the NHL and looking like this? But yeah, they're winning at life, I guess. John, off the top of my head, I'm not exactly sure, but I know when Bergeron is skating and it's the big three for Boston 1, you usually see McAvoy and Chara play a ton of ice time at 5-on-5 with Boston 1. So that's why, like, when McAvoy's cheap and Boston 1's fully loaded and you can't really play $5,500 Krug or whatever with them, McAvoy's like a nicer option at around 4K to save a little bit of money. Both goalies in this game seem ideal for correlating. I could not agree more. Both cheap. And what Corsi means there is if you're stacking up one side of this game, maybe you add in your goalie for correlation, because there should be shots to go around here. So I'm going to have a lot of exposure all over the place here. I talk about Deneau, Tatar, and Gallagher and how good they are at 5-on-5. I was looking at their defensive numbers, and maybe I've just overestimated them in my head, but they're giving up on home ice, so in the shutdown role, they're giving up around, I think, 2.4, 2.5 expected goals against per 60. That's not like worse than the league or anything, but it's not that great. Like, it's not as great as I thought. And now If they're going to go up against McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen healthy, yeah, sure, maybe Landeskog's a little bit rusty or whatever, but like that is a bottom 3 matchup. And so, like, the point I'm trying to make is I think it's going to be fast paced both ways. Like, I don't necessarily think you have to avoid the Danault line. I definitely don't think you have to avoid the Danault line if they're going to get hard matched against McKinnon. And I don't think you need to avoid the McKinnon line because they're going to get hard matched against Danault. So I really like both sides of this. I'm a little bit surprised at where we have Colorado as far as ownership. Oh, by the way, I think Alex did run the ownership. If you guys are using that, our ownership projections that we have for DraftKings, I think Alex did run it without Landeskog. So what I did was, like you'll see Landeskog as a 0. He's obviously not going to be 0% owned if he plays. So I'll see if Alex can run it again. But I would say put him in like the 7 to 10% range, somewhere in there. I would probably have him a little bit higher than what we have Rantanen at. What do we have Rantanen at? So maybe what you do is you bump up Rantanen and Landeskog because it's pretty clear he ran it without Landeskog before we had that news, before we had him projected in. So just be aware of that. So right now I've got like Rantanen at like 6 and Landeskog at 7. You can bump up to 8 or 9 because he's cheaper than Rantanen. But these guys will be played a lot together. For me, it's an all or nothing deal. Like, I would rather not go McKinnon, Landeskog, or McKinnon, Rantanen, and leave the one off. How does this affect Donskoy? Okay, so Donskoy's gonna. Well, okay. First of all, I don't know if these lines are actually going to be what we're going to see. McKinnon, Rantanen, and Donskoy have played really well, results-wise. So who knows? Maybe they just don't break them up, and you go Kadri with Landeskog and Comfer or Calvert or something like that. So definitely want to pay attention to these lines no matter what. First of all, you need to make sure Landeskog's in. You need to see where Landeskog's at and see if you need to redo your lineups. Should be Kadri, Comfer, Donskoy if Landeskog's back. That's what I think. So I think these are the correct lines, but you never know. They just won last night with McKinnon, Rantanen, Donskoy. Would it be the most shocking thing in the world if Landeskog was with Kadri in pregame skate? No, I don't think so at all. Now, it also wouldn't be shocking if Landeskog was there at pregame and then second period they're down 2-0 or 3-1 or whatever. I think that's a pretty real possibility. And Landeskog moves up. So just be aware of what you're doing there. I hope we just see the big 3 together so we can just play the lines straight up. Because I do think it's a pretty good spot for Kadri, Donskoy, and Comfer, if that's the thing. If that's going to be a thing, sorry. Because I think they would see the most time against Domi, Cousins, and Suzuki, and the third line as well for Montreal. So I think there's 5 lines in play here. Right now, as far as exposure, they're ranked like this for me. Montreal 1. Montreal 1's arguably my favorite play of the day. Like my highest exposed play of the day. They're going to be right up there. If not, they're going to be like 2 or 3. And then pretty sizable drop off. Colorado 1 after that. Probably going to be in the 8 to 10% range on them. So I think those 2 would be like priority plays for me if you're playing a single lineup or 3 max. And then I like both of Montreal 2 and 3. Probably going to have about equal amounts of those. So that would make me pretty overweight on Montreal 3, closer to the field on the Domi, Cousins, Suzuki line. So that one's getting a little bit squeezed for me. I'm going to have exposure to 3 lines. I don't necessarily love doing that. Like if you're playing 5 or 10 or 20 lineups even, it's probably not optimal. Like you're just trashing some of your lineups most likely unless they're just a complete explosion for Montreal. But I'm going to have exposure to all 3. That's just how I'm doing it. Montreal is one of those teams along with Boston where I'm just in on them. I'm just hoping for an explosion from 1 or 2 of their lines. And I think it is a really, really awesome spot. And I have no problem playing the goalie making his debut. Yeah, it's a tough spot, but you would think the volume's going to be there, right? I think so. So you've got defensemen in this game that are also viable. Weber, 6,500. He's fine, but I'm getting more to Petrie, most likely, for $4,200 because he goes better with Tatar and Gallagher, who's my favorite play here. And then Cale Makar, under 6K. I don't have a problem playing Makar, especially if you're going with Colorado 1. As a one-off play, though, I like a bunch of guys better than Makar. Like a guy we'll talk about in the coming games. So, yeah, Francouz, if you're stacking up Colorado 1, probably going to need a cheap goalie anyways. So if you're going like this, might as well go there unless you're looking to game stack. I'm not saying you have to do it in every lineup, but if Colorado 1 has a big performance, you would think there's going to be some decent volume locked in for Francouz, and better chance for a win if this top line is going off. And if this top line doesn't go off, well, Francouz is going to lose anyways, so this lineup's just dead. So that's how I view correlating goalie. Maybe not the most optimal play 100% of the time, but on bigger slates, it's what I default to for the most part. Ben Sherratt is also just playing massive minutes. We've got a huge projection on him. I'm playing some of him for 4K, which is crazy when he's not on the power play, but he played like, what was that, 30 minutes last game? Let me find this. Yeah, 30 and a half minutes last game, 2 days ago, playing on Weber's pairing. 29 and a half the game before that, 27. I mean, he's just playing so many minutes. So, yeah. That is insane. I agree. Ben Sherratt, 30 minutes per game. All right, let's go to the next game. This one should be relatively quick. Wild, Lightning, 2.6 implied total for the Wild, 3.6 for the Lightning. Alex Stalock and Andrei Vasilevsky in net. We've got Tampa super cheap. I don't think there's any big notes here outside of Koivu is not playing for the Wild, at least not expected to play. Luke Cunnin slots in with Parisi and Fiala. And that would be a line I would look at. It's a tough spot against Tampa. You know, I've been pretty low on Tampa this season for DFS at least, like not playing them a ton. However, okay, Killorn is a game time decision. Okay, Killorn is expected to be on the third line with Paquette and Maroon, or I'm sorry, the fourth line. I don't know why I'm saying whatever. They're right next to each other. You know what I mean. You can see it on the screen. So just bail myself out there. So this is another one of those teams where it's a home team. I do like factor in line matching and all that. I don't think it really matters that much here. At worst, a neutral matchup, I think, for Point, Palat, and Kucherov at 5-on-5 against Stahl-Zucker and Zuccarello. If they even choose to hard match, I don't think they'd have much of a problem with this line either. So, I mean, all systems go for Point, Kucherov, and Palat if you choose to go that way. So Tampa was one of the teams specifically why I was also experimenting with power play stacks because I don't love playing Palat. Now, you always get a little bit of an ownership discount on him. Same thing when Tyler Johnson played last year with Point and Kucherov. He was on the second unit. So you've got the same sort of situation. He's cheap. But, like, I would just, like, if I'm hand building and thinking to myself, like, all right, we're looking for a Tampa explosion, yeah, I might start with this. But, like, I just feel like this is a way better play. Cirelli, a guy who does have some peripherals, who is on the top power play now. You could go with Stamkos and just Tampa onslaught, and now you can obviously just fill in Hedman. So this is kind of the thing I was experimenting with power play stacking, and Tampa was one of those spots specifically that I wanted to just see what it looks like. So they would be a team that I would stack heavily if I was doing power play stacks tonight, which, like I said, still going back and forth on if I want to fire it up tonight or not. You can go either of these guys, either of these lines at 5-on-5, or I'm sorry, even strength stacks. Cirelli, Stamkos, Johnson. Tyler Johnson's too cheap. at 3,500. I know he hasn't been great, but good value there. Well over 2x. We haven't projected that. He's going to be projected that way. For anyone, they're going to be a popular filler stack, right? So you're not going to be sneaky with Cirelli, Stamkos, and Johnson. But if you do, like, let's say you like Vegas or something like that, like someone a little bit off the map tonight, or Winnipeg, then there's no issue playing that less popular line with a popular filler, because they are still, you would expect them to be a good 5-on-5 line. It's a pretty good matchup against Minnesota. I know Minnesota's stingy at 5-on-5 so far this season. In fact, some of the least chances against numbers per 60. Koivu being out does matter quite a bit, even though he's not a good DFS player. He's still they're probably their best defensive center. But yeah, it's just a good spot for Tampa. So at first look, I was thinking, all right, well, maybe this is an easy spot to just go underweight on them, because Minnesota has been good at 5-on-5, especially recently, but just in terms of not allowing a lot of chances. But the more I've looked at it, the more I've run crunches, and just seeing these prices, like Stamkos at 5,900 is absurd. So that would probably be a guy you lock in cash. If I was playing a bunch of cash tonight, I don't know how you don't get there. And some sort of combination of Point and Kucherov after that, or maybe all three of them, or Cirelli and Kucherov, or something like that. But yeah, just an elite spot here for Tampa, despite what maybe some of the season-long numbers say. So on the wild side, really the only guy I'm looking to play a decent amount of is Dumba at 4,500. Minutes boost with no Spurgeon. Oh, that's also a huge thing. I haven't even mentioned Spurgeon. Spurgeon's good, and now Dumba gets a big slot up. So for DFS reasons, not as good of a defensive defenseman, and going to be playing a bigger role. So 4,500 for Dumba is a pretty good bargain. And then on the Tampa side, the guys I'm looking at the most are obviously Hedman, 5,800. You can play him with either line, either of the top two lines. And then I like McDonough once again for 3,800. So usually only I try to only include power play defensemen, making some exceptions tonight. I usually do for the bigger slates, just guys that are obviously underpriced that are going to play minutes. McDonough falls into that category for me. Oh, Brodin as a punt. That's a good call as well, actually. $2,500. He played 27 minutes last game. Don't be expecting the combo meal or anything from Brodin. If he hits, maybe he can hit the block shot bonus, sure, but you're running hot if you get 2 shots on goal from Brodin. So you're looking for an assist, and a few block shots and maybe a shot or 2 on goal. That's about as good as you can ask for 2,500 anyways. Jeez. So you can, I'm including him, is what I'm saying. Vegas and the New York Islanders, 2.7 implied total for the Golden Knights, 2.8 for the Islanders. Subban and Varlamov in net. New Islanders lines, which absolutely stinks. Both lines have been playing pretty up-tempo. I thought this would be a pretty fun spot to actually play Vegas quite a bit, and I still think it's okay to do this. By the way, the Islanders with this goalie rotation, how are they just going to go the whole season, just every other game? All right, you go with Greiss and Varlamov. It seems weird, but they've literally done it. This is their 28th game or something. They just keep rotating. So who knows? Would they do that if they got to the playoffs? I don't even know. This doesn't matter right now. I'm out in left field right now. All right. But I still do like Vegas somewhat here. It stinks that there's no data on the Islanders lines. I don't think any of them are going to be particularly strong defensively. The Islanders haven't been that great defensively. They have been bailed out by goaltending, as Cliffy has told us on the show a number of times. And Vegas has been somewhat snake-bitten. Marchessault snapped out of it the other night. So this would have been a really nice spot if he only scores 1 goal there. You get him at lower ownership with recency bias, though. It's still a thing in DFS. Maybe this is the start of a hot streak for him, but you've still got 2 elite Vegas lines at 5-on-5. And so what I plan to do, and I know this kind of stinks if you're, like if you're relying on me for advice. I mean, I don't know necessarily that you should always be doing that anyways, but like I think Vegas is in play for like a single entry. What I plan to do with them and what I'm doing right now, like if the slate started right now, I'd be playing about 5 or 6% of each line. And I think I mentioned this last time, or maybe 2 shows ago. When I'm on Vegas and you've got 2 incredible lines to pick from here, I'm usually just on both sides of it. And so that's the luxury of playing MME. But if I had to choose one line for tonight, not based on anything other than just projections and ownership, I think I would go with Vegas 2. But it's always close with these 2 lines. So yeah, it's pretty tough to choose between these 2 lines tonight, as it always is. So give me some of both of the Vegas top 2 lines. Boy, if I don't even know what I'm gonna do with the Islanders here, because like they're cheap. You're getting cheap exposure to Barzal, but almost zero correlation. You're getting 2 guys on the Nelson line on the top power play, and Nelson and Beauvillier, but you've got Komarov on that line. Like he projects for 2.95 points. We got him, and then Anders Lee on the third line. So no clue what they're doing or what the minute distribution is going to be. So maybe you just cross the Islanders off. If I was hand building, there's no chance I would get to Islanders. Playing MME tonight, as I always do. Let's see. What I'm probably gonna do is just limit. Like if I crunch out 150 lineups, maybe limit all these Islanders lines to like 2 to 3%. So at most you're getting 3 to 5 lineups out of 150, and maybe that's even too much. Maybe you just pick 1 or pick 0 of these Islanders lines, because number one, I don't think it's a great matchup. It's a low total. I don't know if these lines are going to actually stick together, especially if they get down. So I'm kind of talking myself out of Islanders. Like I try to never like cross people off unless they're getting owned, and it's like Matthews' situation the other night where they were going to get matched up against Couturier, and maybe then you can even argue you don't even cross a line off, because there's always a chance that they could be the nut stack. But it's a team I don't really want to play. It's a low total. They're going up against just a stacked team in Vegas. Yeah. Is there any reason to not just choose your highest projected lineup for cash? I think if you're playing like low dollar head-to-heads and stuff like that, I think that's a fine strategy. If you're playing like 3-mans with people their play style, or head-to-heads, higher stakes, then you're also playing the opponent. So at least that's how I understand high-level cash games that I do not partake in, because I'd probably get swept. Pulak, 4,400, decent value. I like Shea Theodore a little bit better. I know we've got a higher projection on Pulak right now, but 2 decent values. Cody Glass, 1-off, get PP1 exposure. I'm probably not going there. But, I mean, Vegas 3 has Tuck, so they're always in play, right? No, I didn't get to Vegas 3, at least not yet, right now. There's a lot of other third lines I like that are going to essentially get no ownership. All right, let's go to the next game. Arizona, Philadelphia, 2.5 implied total for the Coyotes, 3 for the Flyers, Darcy Kemper and Brian Elliott in net. This is the game I think I have the least exposure to of the entire slate. It projects to be a low total. You don't have like great discounts here. The line, I guess, you can definitely make a case for is the Couturier, Lindblom, and Voracek line. So I forced a little bit of them in to see if I could actually end up with some. And let's see where their ownership's at. Yeah, they're getting basically nothing. Because you're not getting a great discount. They're 16-3 as a stack. They've played so well at 5-on-5. Who are they going to be stuck on, right? I don't really know, because you've got Keller and Stepan together. That seems like it could be considered a top line for Philadelphia to hard match against. If that's the case, I think it's a pretty decent spot for Philly too. And so that's the one I want to go with. This line seems a little bit overpriced to me with Frost at 5K and Konechny at 5,800. I know they've played really well. I just I don't have a great read on matchups in this game, and with it being so low total, I'm probably just going to take a couple shots with Philadelphia too. Would not be looking at really anything in this game if I was just making one lineup, or maybe even a 3 max. Hayes and Farabee, I mean, maybe. They're not really on my radar tonight, so they're going to be essentially unowned. If you play anything in this game, it's going to be pretty low owned. So if you like something, take your shot. I mean, it's a huge slate. Or if you wanted to mix something in, I don't really have anything on Arizona's side that I want to mess with. Philly, like, their numbers are okay at 5-on-5. They're not giving up a ton of scoring chances. They're not taking a lot of penalties. They've got a good kill as well. So they're not really they're just not a team I have been attacking very much as of late. Yeah, Philadelphia won. They do have really good offensive numbers. So I don't know. Am I oversighting something there? It's possible. It's definitely possible. I just don't know what the matchups are going to be. I've just with how balanced Arizona is with these lines, or if these lines are even accurate, right? Like, that's the problem too with Arizona, especially on the road. They don't have a beat that travels. Only 11 forwards tonight for Philly, so maybe some increased ice time for probably Couturier, Giroux, guys like that. On defense, I guess Chychrun grades out as a fringe value guy for 4,200, but again, Philadelphia, not a team I attack that much. I'm probably good on defensemen here. I don't think I'm getting to anything with any sort of regularity. So let's move it on. San Jose, Carolina, we've got a 2.9 implied total for the Sharks, 3.6 for the Hurricanes. Aaron Dell confirmed going against Peter Mrazek. You guys probably know which side I'm on here. I'm pretty low on the Sharks right now until they figure out some decent lines. I wish they would just load up one line, to be honest. Here, it wouldn't be optimal, right? Because you've got Stahl, who's still a good shutdown center. Carolina PP stack or nothing. Sure, you could do that. I like the even strength stacks, though. I will say this is not necessarily a game that that I'm looking to power play stack a ton. So Aho, Teravainen, and Niederreiter, this line has a history together, playing a bunch last year, some this year. I mean, insanely good numbers. I think they're around 70 shot attempts per 60. I know the expected goals are way up there. Niederreiter has trouble finishing sometimes, as does Teravainen, as does Aho. I mean, you saw him go on a pretty big drought, so they can be frustrating at times. They're probably going to get the Hurdle-Meyer line, and that seems like a pretty good matchup with Marleau there, kind of dragging them down. No problem going up against the Thornton line either with LeBanc and Sorensen. I just think this is one of those times where they're going to be popular, right? Let's see. Where's Aho at? Yeah. I figured they'd be around 7 to 10% or 11% or something. So they're in that range. I'm going to have more than that, though. This would be a play where they're the obvious value, but not only are they the obvious value, but it's a really good spot. I think they're going to get the optimal 5-on-5 matchup with having a good shutdown center install. Big total, and what's the last thing I'm thinking of? They're just really good. They're just really good as well. No respect for old man Marlowe. Yeah, you guys know my thoughts on him. As far as attacking him, Svechnikov, right? So, yeah, I'm not leaving Niederreiter off. Like, I don't think that's necessary to leave Niederreiter off for 3,300. Sharks are number 2 for penalty minutes per game. Carolina 10th in the league in PPE. I just load Aho, Svech, and Hamilton. Yeah, we'll get to Hamilton in just a second. Stahl, Svechnikov, and Foegele. So Foegele is just predictably going completely overlooked. People will leave him off. People will go with Svechnikov one-offs. People don't like to play Stahl as much. I get that. I'm also going to have some Carolina 1 stacks, the Stahl line. Mostly focused on 2, but this is another, like, there's just a bunch of teams like this tonight where I'm just on multiple lines from that team. Like, I just think it's a pretty lopsided spot here for Carolina in terms of possession. So if you wanted to try to be a hero with Aaron Dell, I understand it. Let's see, do the Sharks even play tomorrow? Like, maybe he doesn't even get pulled no matter what. So I can't remember off the top of my head if the Sharks play tomorrow. They do not. So getting pulled certainly in the cards here for Dell. But no, I don't think you need to play Dell here. If he goes off at 1%, maybe you could find a goalie that gets within a few points of him anyways. Yeah, just all Carolina here. Going to be heavy on the Aho line, just to reiterate. And then Stahl line, a nice secondary option, I think. You certainly could power play stack it with Aho, Teravainen, and Svechnikov. I'm sticking more to 5-on-5 even strength stacks. Dougie Hamilton, you can play him with either of the lines. I prefer to play him with Aho, Teravainen line with Niederreiter. Dougie's my favorite defenseman tonight. Priced at 7K. If you look at his career numbers, maybe not worth 7K, but he is attempting a ton of shots. Like, he's been close to the 5-point bonus in, like, I would say like 8 out of his last 10 games, which had 4+ shots. Yeah, it's an arbitrary bonus, but it's just like you got to play the scoring system that you're dealt, right? He's 7K. I think it is the best spot for a defenseman tonight. So I boost him. I think he's our raw point leader for defenseman tonight. If not, let's see, who would that be? Is he our top guy, or do we have Hedman up there or someone? Let's see, Hamilton. Oh, we got Shea Weber above him. But as far as exposure, I will go with. I'll take Dougie because Weber's on the top power play. The line I like on Montreal is with Gallagher and Tatar, who are on the second unit, and so I like Dougie because he goes better with the stack on the team. Weber with the Dale Weiss pick on DK. Is that right? No, I didn't see that. I never look at those because I always do a CSV edit. All right, on the other side, I just think the Sharks lines are overmatched here. They've proven me wrong a couple of times recently. If I had to go with one, it would probably be the Hurdle line. I don't really want to play Marlowe. But I guess if you're making me choose an even strength stack, I don't really love the matchup for Couture and Kane and Goudreau at 5-on-5, or the projected matchup. I'd rather take my chances with old man Marlowe and 2 dynamic players in Hurdle and Meyer. Maybe they get a fast pace spot against Aho and Niederreiter when they're on the ice together. Burns Carlson, man, is Burns on the top power play? Did they just swap this? I don't know. Someone who looked at shift chart or whatever, natural stat trick, did Burns play on the top power play last game, or did this happen in the last couple days in practice? Because I didn't see this until now, but it's not going to change a bunch for me. I'm still not playing a ton of Burns at 6,100. Right now I got to about 4% in my crunch. I'm guessing he's going to be popular just because he's Brent Burns. We've got him in the teens. Like, he just keeps getting ownership, but he hasn't really performed that well. His attempts are down. I'll go elsewhere. Like, I'll get up to Dougie. I think it's a better spot for Dougie by a pretty good margin. All right, couple more games. Rangers, Blue Jackets, 2.9 implied total for the Rangers, 3.1 for the Jackets. We have Alexander Georgiev against Jonas Korpisalo. Columbus one is incredibly cheap. They're keeping Jenner with Nyquist and Bjorkstrand together, at least to start. It is Tortorella, so who knows how long that sticks, although I will say that line has stuck for a number of games in a row. He hasn't really budged on that line. So maybe the middle six change here, if anything. And what it does for me is just makes it pretty clear who I want to stack, and that's Columbus 1. I understand that they're going to be popular, maybe the most popular filler stack on the night. We've got all their guys approaching teens. However, the Rangers are just so bad at 5-on-5. This line has been good at 5-on-5. They're fully correlated. I mean, they're everything you look for in a DFS line, I think. And you're getting them for cheap. I don't think the matchup matters too much, whether they go up against the Zibanejad line or the Strome line or whatever. It just looks like a great spot. I can't really say anything other than maybe they're going to be a little bit over-owned, but even as I say that, like, I think I'm going to have over 12% of them, which is where we have them. So I guess I don't think they're going to be over-owned. They're just way too cheap for this spot. So I'm playing them. Maybe that's a fish play. Maybe you look for some other stacks that are priced in the 15, or wait, no, that's 14.3 range. I suppose you could do that. It's just, I don't really see like a clear pivot. They project so well from a raw points basis and from a value basis. Bjorkstrand for me. Joel Armia or Bjorkstrand as a one-off. I'd probably go Bjorkstrand still. Jenner Hattie yet? Yeah, Seth's going to be heavy on CBJ1, just playing the chalk as he always does. And I'll be right there with him. Let's see. Just the ownership didn't come in high enough for me to feel like I needed to get off of them. So they're going to be right up there with Montreal and Carolina as my favorite stacks. I'm trying not to get too cute tonight with my exposures. They're going to be one of my highest exposures. It's just the way it is. They go very well with Seth Jones. You just know that if this stack does go off, you got a lot of work to do after that. So just, this is one of those where they don't necessarily lock you into a certain line of construction. Like, it's not 24K Boston 1. So I'm more okay playing them as heavy chalk because there's just so many, like, you still have a ton of salary opened up. Even if you do add in Jones, like, you've still got 5 other positions to get contrarian and play a Vegas line, play someone low owned that's also a high upside stack. Seth hasn't been great. I mean, well, how many minutes did he play last game? I mean, this will probably tell the whole story. He played 26 minutes, 27 minutes his last two. Great analysis, right? Just giving out minutes, but he's always been a guy that shoots at a pretty high volume. He's playing top pairing. He's on the top power play. He's going to play with talented players at 5-on-5. I mean, it's a great spot against the Rangers, just giving up a ton of just bleeding chances all over the place. Backup goalie. I'm not going to try to talk myself off Seth Jones here. If you had to choose a Rangers line, the second one looks a little bit better with Kreider and Panarin on the wings. Maybe he goes Zibanejad, Kakko, or power play stack this. I don't think it's that appealing of a spot, though, for me, for the Rangers. If they get there, maybe I'll be kicking myself, but I like a bunch of other spots a little bit better. So let's go to Winnipeg and Dallas. 2.5 implied total for the Jets, 2.9 for the Stars. Hellebuck and Bishop in net. Once again, here I am, a game with a 5.5 total on the under, and I like both sides. So first of all, you're not seeing Alexander Radulov on your screen. He is a healthy scratch. No clue why. I don't know, but we've got Ben with Dowling and Sagan, at least to start. The power plays are pretty screwed up as well. Fourth line, Corey Perry, I guess, listed on the top unit. Who knows what's going to stick? I'm pretty sure we're going to see Sagan and Ben stick. And I'm playing some of the Dowling line, some of the Dowling, Ben, and Sagan line. They have a pretty short sample together, only a handful of games, but they've been fine offensively. I don't think they're going to be special defensively if they stick together. Don't tilt if Dowling moves off this line, or just play Sagan and Ben if you don't. Like, if you just want to play two guys that are probably going to stick together the whole time, that's perfectly fine. But they're going to get, I think, a pretty good matchup against Scheifele, Connor, and Laine. So I think that's going to be the line they see for the most part. And then, Faxaline's going to see some against them as well, and probably some of the Wheeler line. But I like kind of both sides of this matchup. Winnipeg 1's just too cheap. Good offensive numbers. I'm guessing their ownership's not out of whack if I'm getting to a bunch of them. They're a little bit higher than I anticipated, but no one over 8% right now. So I do like that. More of a secondary play for me. They're not quite in the Montreal 1 tier for me. They're not in the Carolina tier for me, but they're probably a top 10 play for me rather than like a top 3 or 4 play, if that makes sense. Something's wrong with what I'm looking at or something, because I get to more Winnipeg, it feels like, than anyone. And it's like a 2.5 total, and, I try to add in my own stuff as well with the projections. And it's like, man, I guess these three guys just account for so many. Like, it's just, you would think it's a concentrated scoring attack on this top line, right? So maybe that's what's pulling them up even in low total spots in what projects to be a pretty slow pace game. But that's where I'm at. Wheeler Ehlers and Roslovic, also a secondary play for me. I have no clue if Janmark's going to stick. I have no clue if Hintz and Pavelski is going to stick. You could see Gurianov and Perry jump with. I just have no idea what's going on with the rest of the Dallas lines, but I'm taking shots on Ben, Dowling, and Seguin, and Winnipeg 1 for the most part on the Jet side. Pionk is the guy, I guess, on the top power play. Wouldn't be more of anything than an add-on if you're power play stacking. Winnipeg, I like both Heiskanen and Klingberg. If you use like last 10 stats or whatever, Heiskanen is going to come up a little bit more than what the season numbers say. So we've got a low projection on him. I'm giving him a manual bump. Projections are, of course, a great guide, but nothing wrong with bumping some guys up if you think their numbers, their minutes are going to be higher or whatever. I like bumping up Heiskanen. I like getting to him as a one-off. Certainly no problem attacking Winnipeg. All right, I am going past time, but anyways, we got one more game. Sabres, Flames, Linus Hallmark, David Rittich in net, 2.5 implied total for the Sabres, 3.1 for the Flames. On your way out, if you guys could give a like, that would be very much appreciated. Helps us continue to kind of do this content for free. Nolan will, I think he's going to be back tomorrow doing the show. I think we've got like a 4 or 5 game slate, so would help us out. You playing any Showdown tonight? Yeah, I'm playing Showdown for sure. We've got Showdown tools. We'll get to that in just a second. So, just disgusting Flames lines. Derek Ryan, Milan Lucic, and of course, Johnny Gaudreau. Boy, I mean, so the obvious line here, I guess, is Lindholm, Kachuk, and Mangiapane. Nolan and I like Mangiapane, right? We always talk about him as kind of an interesting guy. I mean, he was dynamic, I guess, somewhat on the, I guess, Calgary 4 last year. So I've got no problem like mixing in some Calgary 1 as your late night hammer. Eichel, Olofsson, and Reinhart. I hate Buffalo 1. I absolutely despise playing them in DFS because Eichel's the only one that ever does anything consistently, and even when he does, everyone else gets left out of the party, it seems like. But once again, it's going to be, definition of insanity here. I keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, and that would be full stacking the Eichel line. Now, I only got to a few shares out of 150, so by no means are they a top play for me or anything like that. Just I'm letting the projections do their work. If I end up with a few Eichel shares, I'm fine. Eichel line shares, that's fine. It's not like I'm going to have zero exposure to this game out of 150 lineups, but I think this game stinks. I think Calgary stinks. Buffalo certainly stinks as well. Two bad teams facing off against each other. Maybe you see an explosion. We see that happen all the time, and that usually means value somewhere. Gio, pretty good value at 6,300. He's a guy I'll have a decent amount of. Jokiharju, and well, I don't know what they're gonna do game to game with their defensemen for Buffalo, so it makes it a little bit tough. Let's see. Jokiharju played 16, not even 17 minutes last game. He's fine for what he is. He's a $2,900 defenseman. If you want to play him with Buffalo 1, that's fine. Not necessarily looking to play him with or by himself all that often. Favorite punt D tonight. Let's see. Guys, I'm getting to... did I mention Slavin when we were at the Carolina game? I actually like him too a lot. He's not a punt, but I think he's like... What is he? 4K? Yeah, I like that price for Slavin a lot. But like punt guys... I'm not punting that much. Man. I guess... Man. Brodeen... Good God. I got a couple Grizzly shares. Yoki looks better and better as I scroll through my D-men crunch. Because it's going to be a lot of Hamilton, a lot of Jones, the obvious guys, Weber, Petrie, Gio, Klingberg, Heiskanen, Hedman. And then I'm finding it where I don't need to punt all that often. But if you do, you can include Yoki for sure. Brodeen. Grizzlick, yikes. Ryan Murray, what's he at? He's at 35. That's not even like a pure punt. So it's pretty gross trying to punt here. If you're looking for the deeper dive, that is going to be on this YouTube channel, but just click on the channel, find Adam and Laffy. Those guys do a great job of breaking down the NBA slate. Ownership rankings are free today. Feel free to check those out if you're playing some NBA tonight. No reason not to. Free premium content. Osmo's top showdown and single game plays are also, I think, expected to be free. So we'll see if those get unlocked. Hopefully you have that Cyber Monday deal anyways, and you got everything for free for this week. Promo code Hit the Ice gets you 50% off your first month of any monthly Osmo Plus package. Go check out Yahoo. They've got some pretty nice NHL contests. Yeah, it's not huge money, but $500 to first. Pretty solid. 8 max entries you can get in this tournament for under $100. Chance at nice flat payout structure, lower management fees, all the good stuff. They've also got NFL and NBA contests that are quite a bit bigger. So go support when you do. Use promo code OSMO for up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. All right, I think we did it a little bit over time, but feel free to drop us a like on your way out. Again, that really helps us out for a number of different reasons, and I'll be rooting for a lot of the home teams tonight, and maybe some Colorado 1 along the way. It'd be nice to have Landeskog back. My hat trick, my 1% hat trick play Even though Nolan's not on the show, let's see if we can, if I could scroll through and choose one quick. Oh boy. This is going to be, man. 1% is pretty tough. Why don't we give it a 2%? Actually, no, 1%. Max Pacioretty. There we go. We got him projected pretty low. The line's updated on projections. I think they should be. I ran it right before the show, so I'll check back and see if they are. But they should have all the players that are supposed to play in there at the very least. All right, good luck tonight, guys. I'll be back with Nolan tomorrow.